Hi, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you're not familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a podcast wherein Kyle and I introduce one another to films. And in this way, we help each other to catch up on our cinema. This week is the third in our Alien Masterclass?
Correct. It's Alien to the Third Power.
Yes, if you're going by the exact title font, it is indeed Alien to the Third Power. Basically, what a masterclass episode is basically it's where we take a deep dive into a long-standing franchise of some sort. And this is shaping up to be like an annual tradition or something. It's not something we do all the time, but the very first episode we did, Kyle and I, was the Predator Masterclass. And we went through the entire film franchise front to back. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing with Alien. We've already got 2 movies down, Alien and Aliens, which brings us to Alien 3 from, 1992?
Correct.
Directed?
Quote unquote, directed by?
By David Fincher.
Yeah,
super critically acclaimed director who unfortunately seems to want to disown this film.
Very much wanted to disown this film. David Fincher, I just want to say at the top here, directed Seven, The Game. Ever heard of this little movie called The Fight Club? Panic Room. I didn't know he did Panic Room.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorite movies, Zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually doing Mindhunter. Have you heard anything about Mindhunter on Netflix?
Only what you've told me. I've heard it's a stellar program.
Pretty excellent. I wanted to just say that it's at the top that I appreciate what David Fincher did. This actor, we're going to talk about him a little later, the one that gets the beat down by... what's his face?
Charles S. Dutton?
Charles S. Dutton. He's also in Fight Club. I can't remember. I don't think he's in Zodiac, but he's actually one of the leads in Mindhunter now.
Are you talking about Holt?
Holt
McCallany?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah, he's great in Mindhunter.
That makes me really happy because actually, in rewatching this film very recently, it was only upon this most recent viewing that I realized that that's who that was.
Yeah.
The guy with the teardrop tattoo. That's
Correct.
a very young, skinny Holt McCallany.
He's a peach in this.
I've always really liked him.
Yeah.
And he started popping up and stuff. There was a show on FX called Lights Out.
Yes, I know what you're
It lasted a single season.
Yeah, FX does that.
I'm a huge boxing fan, lifelong boxing fan, and for me, it was like, yes, I want this. it's a boxing family drama about a Irish American boxer.
Oh, you lost me.
Like I said, it only lasted 1 season, but I was really excited to see him get the spotlight for 13 episodes, and I'm always happy to see him. Even in that shitty Jack Reacher sequel, he shows up for 2 seconds, he gets put in like an arm lock of some sort, and he plays a Weasley bastard. But I'm just happy he's working because I'm always happy to see him.
He's winning now. He's in Mindhunter. He's got a good, solid role, and he's fantastic.
I mean, in the past 5 years, I got to see the guy get beat up by Tom Cruise and Liam Neeson,
which is odd because if you look at this dude, like he's a hulking. Like we were watching Mindhunter, and Steph is just like, "Jeez, he's huge!" Like he was just hulking over his wife in the show, and this other guy standing in frame. Like he's just enormous. I'm like, how's Liam Neeson beating his ass?
Well, Liam Neeson's like 6'4". He's got inches on him,
He might have like 2 inches.
He
on
makes
him.
use of some bathroom equipment, like a towel dispenser or something. So he has a bit of it. He has the equalizer. And it needs to be said, Tom Cruise, I don't know if he flexed his producer credit, but in his scenes with Holt is usually seated. Especially when he's yanking his arm, like when he's twisting his arm, I'm pretty sure if I remember right, he's seated. And he's
funny.
Probably eye to eye with him.
Yeah, most likely. He's like 4'8". Anyway, so yeah, Alien 3.
Yes. Alien 3. And
we should talk about. As I said, we should mention Fincher at the top here. But go ahead. Whatever you were going to say.
Yeah, Fincher really wants to take his name off this product. It's my understanding that Fox won't allow it because it's not a good look.
It's not because David Fincher. Like I think I mentioned one of the first episode we were doing this. I'm like, this is 4 iconic directors behind it. These first 4 movies. David Fincher's a name, and that might be one of the reasons why we're not taking your name off this. It's the only reason why people give us a chance anymore.
That's actually an incredible accomplishment when you think about it.
Right?
That every film in this franchise has a big name director attached to it. Resurrection is probably the most obscure
for Americans,
but that comes with the caveat that he's big in France, and this was his only foray into Hollywood.
Ooh, and I actually do like that director. I can't think of his name.
Jean-Pierre Jeunet,
Yeah.
or however you pronounce that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know his name. I just know his movies.
But yeah, this was David Fincher's directorial debut. So this is a big fucking deal.
Pretty fucking nuts.
And not only that, the production history of this film is perhaps more interesting than the product itself. This was a historically troubled production, even before they started rolling film, and to have a rookie director essentially step into the chair, that's a big gamble. And I don't think of any of the Alien films as being outright failures. In fact, most of them are very watchable. This one probably the least.
I think it's probably the least watchable. Yes.
Yeah, but what about David Fincher did you want to talk about specifically?
Oh, that's what I wanted to mention, was that he's disowned this movie. He walked out of production, so I'm not even sure he was there when it's finished, which will come up later when we talk about the actual structure of the movie. How there is a certain point where this movie is just almost unwatchable. Like, you get about 15 minutes into the first third act of the movie, and you're like, I could not care anymore.
There's a very distinct cutoff point where my eyes start to get heavy.
And there's camera angles, the opening shots especially. You can see, like, this guy, I could see 2 movies that he watched in preparation for this, and we'll get to it in just a minute. But yeah, he stated that there was just constant studio interference. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, you mentioned that Sigourney Weaver, I noticed that her name she was a producer on this. I read that she wanted her own writers for her character. Like, she wanted writers from, I think, the first 2 movies to be for her character.
That's my understanding. There are a couple of producers attached to basically the entire Alien franchise. Walter Hill being one of them. Mm-hmm. And I didn't bother to look into it, but if it's the same Walter Hill that I'm thinking of, prolific action film director Walter Hill, like The Warriors Walter Hill, that's interesting. He's not the name that comes to mind when I think of Alien, but almost every one of these films, his name is in big print, hovering above it. But I do believe she did request to have her own writers. And she wasn't like a set tyrant or anything. Like, I haven't read any reports of her being difficult to work with. However, I do know that she was a producer and she did have demands. As an actress, there were certain things that she was more interested in doing than others. So one of the major elements of why this is a troubled production is that I don't know that they had a script set in stone, like, by the time they actually started production.
They didn't. I believe that it was still working through production.
Yeah, it was constantly in flux, and to my knowledge, there are about 4 or 5 workable scripts for this movie that existed prior to production. As far as I know, they just kind of grabbed chunks here and there from each of them and just hoped for the best.
I've heard that Werner Herzog is very much not a script. He's not a script doctor kind of guy. Like, he writes it, and this is what's happening. This is what's being shot. I've heard that he doesn't change things during production. That's what I've heard. I could be wrong. I've read that note. I think there was an actor who was working with it. It might have been, I can't think of who it is off the top of my head.
Klaus?
It might have been Klaus. Klaus doesn't seem like the kind of guy. Klaus Kinski, by the way. He missed.
You see his face, you'll never forget it.
He missed being a Nazi by just a sneeze. Seriously, if you hear anything about Klaus Kinski and his relationship with Werner Herzog, you're like, yeah, one of those guys is a monster, and it's the one that's not alive anymore. I think that I'd read that Werner Herzog's pretty. Like, once it's done, it's done. We're not changing anything. Or maybe that was Joel Schumacher. One of those tall guys. I can't think of which one.
Klaus, you don't understand. It is on the page. We are filming it as it is written.
I'm going to go shoot at the key grip and his friends because they're making too much noise. He did that. He shot it. He was like, I think it was on, Fitzcarraldo. I think the cast and crew were making so much noise one night that he ended up shooting a rifle at them where they were making noise. It was a problem.
I lost a bet, and now I have to eat a shoe on camera.
That seems like Werner Herzog might have actually made a deal with the devil, and like he's like, yeah, you're gonna be a director, all right, But you get this fucking 5'5" crazy German guy to be in all of your movies.
You got this little gremlin to tussle with.
Don't pour water on him.
Oh, fuck. I mean, that would be one ugly gremlin.
So, I mean, we're not going to go front and back to this. We just can't. Like, there's just not a lot going on.
But there is a lot to say.
There's a lot to say, and I want to challenge you to find, like, while we're talking about this, tell me when you feel David Fincher's on screen, like, you feel like he's on screen, and post-production where somebody else was, like, editing this together. Because there are certain camera angles, there's certain shots that feel like they're probably David Fincher.
Yeah, as you had mentioned earlier, mostly in the first half.
Yes.
I mean, I seriously doubt that that's actually true. Movies are traditionally not, shot or edited linearly. It's kind of like you piece together scenes and then you do an assembly and then blah, 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 blah. So, I don't know. Maybe he was in the editing room for a portion of it and then they kicked him out and then things got bad. I don't know. But there are definitely certain chunks of it that feel more ambitious and more focused, I guess, than other parts of it. And most of those unfocused parts come in the second half.
What's still the cast at him real quick? I think that's kind of interesting because there's a few characters that are sitting kind of on the back burner that I'm like, Pete Postlethwaite's not doing anything.
He's not doing anything.
He's just kind of there.
Yeah, Pete Postlethwaite has like a couple of lines. He attempts to be funny at one point. And other than that, he's in the background and he gets chased at the end just like everyone else.
He has literally you can cough longer than he's on the screen, I think. That's how much screen time he has.
Well, I mean, the same criticism was leveled at like Black Hawk Down. Funny enough, Ridley Scott product. But at the time, a lot of people were having trouble distinguishing between all the people because everybody kind of looked the same.
No kidding. I had trouble distinguishing between everybody.
You watch that movie now, it is an all-star fucking cast.
It is.
It is all of the UK.
Yeah.
It's like there's Ewan McGregor, there is that Scottish guy from AVP.
Every single person you've seen in a movie is in
Tom
Black Hawk.
Hardy is in that.
Tom Hardy's in that?
Yes. Yes, Tom Hardy's in Black Hawk Down.
You're blowing my mind right now.
He's one of the machine gunners. He's one of the LMG guys.
I remember
he's Twobbly or whatever, however the fuck you say his name.
I always remember Josh Hartnett's in there, and then Orlando Bloom. And
Orlando Bloom's great because he falls out the helicopter.
He dies. I think he dies. That's how he dies in the movie. I don't know if he dies.
Then Eric Bana as the coolest human being that ever lived.
I do. Yeah, he's just like sitting there eating. God damn, he's about to go out again. He's such a badass.
Cool ass William Fichtner.
So we got Chuck Dance, Charles Dance, who I feel like they were trying to do like we mentioned in Aliens, where it's not necessarily a red herring, but you're definitely keeping your eye on him. Lance Henriksen. Charles Dance here, I remember watching this as a kid, and I'm like, he seems evil. But that's just how Charles Dance looks, and I was wondering if that was, they did that explicitly for him to kind of be a red herring here, because he's, that opening shot, he's doing the syringe.
That's all the business with the script, I think.
Yeah.
Because a huge problem with this movie that we were talking about off the air is that by the time you get to the second half, you're robbed of two of the more interesting characters. Three of the more interesting characters, if you include Bishop.
Yeah.
Basically, your cast is stripped down to nothing by the time you get to the second half. There's a lot of dead meat, but nobody you actually know or care about. And Charles Dance, there's a lot of lip service paid to him having a past. Literally every exchange of dialogue he has with Ripley in the first half of the film is alluding to both of them keeping secrets from each other, and there is zero payoff to it. There's a charming dialogue scene, and then he's out of the movie. And when you structure your story in such a way that you're hinting at something, and then there's no payoff, you're getting the audience all tensed up about nothing.
Yeah. And
then even his death is not quite as spectacular as you would have hoped.
Right.
I mean, it's good. Actually, that is one thing that needs to be said. We will get to it. This is probably the most violent of the Alien movies.
It is. We should go. Let's just go and talk about it now, because that's one of the things I love to go for it.
Let's keep going on about the cast.
Oh yeah, the cast.
Yeah. So we got Holt in there, who is not a household name.
No.
He's just.
He doesn't say anything in this movie.
Yeah, he does some naughty stuff. He lives pretty late into the film, actually.
We'll get to that's another thing. Sorry.
Actually, his character had some elements that were in the script that apparently got snipped. He was actually supposed to have redemption.
He does a little bit.
What Charles S. Dutton does at the end of the film, he was supposed to be involved in that.
Oh, okay.
But no, he just kind of has an anonymous death. But yeah, he's just a bald. Everyone in this film is bald, but everyone has a shaved head, and that's what I was talking about with the Black Hawk Down problem, where it's an alarming number of British people.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of distracting as an American.
It's like this is like a futuristic Australia. They're just like, send those Brits down there.
Well, I mean, that may have been the concept on paper, but it's a little distracting, where it's a bunch of white British men with very UK accents, and then Charles S. Dutton. It's like one of these things is not like the other. Yeah. It's weird because, I mean, if the ratio was balanced a bit more, like if you had some people from different accents, different ethnicities, then it would feel more like an actual prison, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like maybe Wayland Yutani is primarily made of Brits. I don't know.
Possibly. No.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. But it is distracting, and it does lead to confusion because everyone looks relatively the same. And if you're not familiar with the multitude of British accents, it's all going to kind of blend together. In fact, I remember when I was a kid, the first time I watched this movie, the gentleman who has the nervous breakdown and is rambling about the dragon.
Yeah.
I thought he was the guy who made it to the end of the movie.
It's the other guy.
They're two different people.
Yeah.
But they look kind of similar, and they both have that crazy man shtick. It was actually kind of similar to Saving Private Ryan, the great debate about which Nazi's which. Is Steamboat Willie the guy who stabbed...
Yeah.
It's not. It's not, but everybody gets him confused.
No, I know.
He's the one who shot Tom Hanks.
He's the one that shot Tom Hanks, yes.
But no, the man who stabbed our friendly Jewish man.
That's the worst. That's
actually an episode that I've been mulling over. Cinematic deaths.
Yeah.
Like good, bad, or uncomfortable.
that might be the most uncomfortable cinematic death.
It might be.
Especially when you know what else is happening in that scene, i.e. the translation of what the soldier's saying.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg, he's got layers.
No, we need to do that, and in fact, while you're in town, maybe I can get my brother in on that.
That could be good.
Yeah.
More the merrier on that.
Oh, yeah.
Because he'll think of some ones we didn't even think of.
But yeah, who else we got?
Charles S. Dutton, I'm not sure how long after being in prison he started acting, but if you don't know anything about Charles S. Dutton, he was convicted of murdering somebody when he was very young. I think he was like 17.
Okay.
I think he did... maybe 10 to 15 years. I'm not entirely sure how long he was in prison for. But he very much... I think it's interesting casting for this because he's a person who spent much of his, developing, his young adulthood in prison. And this is more or less a prison colony, I guess would be the way. These guys are doing... It's basically monks. These guys have taken a vow, and he brings an intensity... Of a huge intensity to the character. Good casting. I think too much dialogue for him.
Everything about Charles S. Dutton is huge. I really love him as an actor. Mm-hmm. I remember my mom pointing him out when I was young, where it's like, he is a good actor. I was like, yes, I think so, because I can't take my eyes off the screen whenever he shows up. Hell, he was even on Are You Afraid of the Dark? I think.
Oh,
yeah. It was either that or Goosebumps, but I'm pretty sure it was Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I was like, okay, big scary man. But yeah, I've always loved him, and his character is kind of one note, unfortunately.
Yeah.
His performance is very strong, but he's almost too righteous. Mm-hmm. Where it's like you needed that one little bit where the layers get peeled back a little bit. And that you see a little chink in his armor to see that he's a person as opposed to just preacher guy.
I think his character's supposed to have a facade. He's supposed to. He's the spiritual leader of the group, and I think he's supposed to carry himself like that.
Yeah, I mean everything he does is great.
Yeah.
It's just it's all very, very heavy-handed and melodramatic. The score for this movie backs him up. At certain times where it's okay, this is a bit much. I see what you're doing, but it's a lot.
What did you think of the score? Now that you mention it,
it's excellent.
I was gonna say that I even noticed it too.
Elliot Goldenthal. Great stuff. Funny enough, one of the music cues in this movie, it's the scene that's used twice actually. It's the scene when they're assaulting Ripley in the garbage heap, and at the very end when Charles S. Dutton throws the fuck down with that alien, the same music plays over both the scenes. That is actually in, I think, Batman Forever.
Ugh. I personally, when we talk about that scene a little bit, it could have been so much better. Like there was, it was just so weird. It changes the tone because it's like this is gonna be a fucking awesome, badass sexual assault because of the music. I'm like, it's completely different.
See, what's interesting there is that you can see David Fincher from time to time in this movie, and all those movies you list in his filmography, he has a thing that he likes, and that would be like crime scene investigation and serial killers.
Yeah.
I feel like that may have been him. Because even the scene where we're investigating the fan death, that feels very David Fincher. That it's a crime scene investigation sequence where it's like there was a horrific moment of violence, and now we're seeing the aftermath of it, which if you edit and you shoot it right, actually is more effective than actually seeing the violence. Which David Fincher, that's kind of a thing he does. His movies tend to be very violent.
You see almost no gore whatsoever in Seven. And it's one of the heaviest movies I've ever seen. It's incredible.
Brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
It's incredible what you can do. Well, I hated the music choice for that scene in particular.
Okay.
I was livid.
Well, what's funny to me is that Trent Reznor is one of David Fincher's common collaborators. And
the opening credits of Seven.
Yeah. But he scores his films. He doesn't just do songs. He does the actual music.
Well, it's actually, you know what? I was thinking about this while I was watching. This came out in 1992, and I'm like, this music is just so odd. At the time, this was kind of a new sound. Like we're on the ass end of, I think there's still butt rock coming out. Like butt rock is still like, we haven't hit the dark 90s.
No, we still got like Motley Crue and stuff.
Motley Crue's still touring.
Oh yeah.
Nearly dead, but but they're still touring. And maybe at the time the music
Skid Row.
Maybe at the time the music was a good choice because it was like, whoa, wow, we never heard anything like this before. This is really heavy. Going back now and listening to it, it's like almost uppity, and it just doesn't. It doesn't.
It's like that industrial goth music that's like, this is dance music.
Yeah,
it's just really sad and angry.
It's just that could have been a much more powerful scene if we had almost no music or some kind of ominous like orchestral thing going on in the background.
Actually, the first thing you threw out there, no sound. Just imagine the rain. Just rain and heavy breathing. That would be terrifying. His
scream would have I feel like Holt he does that scream really well, and I think when you add it with the music, it seems more. I'm gonna say it seems more fun.
It comes across as kind of cartoonish, like comic booky. Like Charles S. Dutton shows up like Batman. Like he swoops in like Batman.
He turns Holt's head into gushers. I don't know, but later Holt just has a bandage.
He just has like a comical like bandage, like gauze wrapped around his head.
No, you're dead.
No, one of my favorite lines in the movie there is during that scene where Charles S. Dutton shows up with a pipe and starts just beating ass and he's laying into these guys and Ripley's he doesn't even point at Ripley. He does this thing that's a good acting choice where he just does like all of his fingers. It's like a SWAT team like go code. Just like take off, and she's just like what, and he's like, I gotta re-educate some of the brothers. And meanwhile he's holding this pipe that has like brain matter on the end of it. It's not blood. It's chunks.
Can we talk about the violence? Because actually the opening credits were excellent.
Yeah, actually,
so good.
Ghost in the Shell.
That's exactly what I thought of too.
You brought it up on the Ghost in the Shell episode, and it was fun to revisit it because like I was picturing it while we were talking on the Ghost in the Shell episode, and I was like, "Yep, Kyle is fucking right. The editing is
exactly Ghost in the Shell." It tries to set the tone that I think David Fincher was going for. I think this was going to be.
I think he may have supervised that because his opening sequences tend to be glorious. The girl with the dragon tattoo, you probably haven't seen it.
I haven't seen that.
the opening 3 minutes of that are incredible. You don't even need to see the movie. Like, it's not an amazing movie, but it's David Fincher, so it's pretty good. But the opening credits, holy fucking shit! like that brought me back to like MTV in the 90s.
There's something else I wanted to say about the opening.
Tarsum Singh shit, like The Cell.
I know you haven't seen it, but one of the opening shot of Charles Dance walking is very reminiscent of Red Desert. There's a lot of shots there. That's what made me think when you said like this is David Fincher's directorial debut. I'm like, oh, then he's definitely seen Red Desert. And there's it's a very industrial shot and like kind of perspective showing him how small he is and how big everything is, and it's very Red Desert. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I'm like, I kind of caught that.
So before we get too deep into it,
yeah.
Oh, by the way, who directed Red Desert? Do you have?
He's an Italian fella. Okay. I got his name up here real quick. It is Michelangelo Antonioni.
When did that come out?
1964.
Okay. Well, I ought to see that because you brought it up a few times now.
It's a Criterion
Gotcha.
release, so he had to have seen it. There's no way he didn't.
I mean, he's a film director.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like
he is a learned film director. Industrial, you don't say. Industrial and David Fincher go together like peanut butter and chocolate.
But the opening credits, like, it sets the tone and it lets you know what's happened, even though they spell it out for you. They actually like verbally say it later, but it's nice. I like how this
it's really, really solid visual storytelling.
Yeah,
where basically we get to see the Sulaco encounter some electrical problem while everyone is still in cryosleep. So that would be Ripley, Hicks, Bishop, and Newt.
Hicks, dude.
That's a very large spacecraft with few people on it. But yeah, Hicks gets fucked in this movie.
That's why I wanted to just mention briefly that opening scene, but I wanted to talk about the violence. The use of the noise, the crunching in this movie, especially at the top, we get really good... Hicks. So apparently, what happened with Michael Biehn? If you don't remember, Michael Biehn was Hicks, and he survived. So you'd be super excited to go into the third one. Like, awesome, he made it.
And one version of the script had him as the main character.
Yeah, yeah. Was he going to be the main or like with her?
The main.
Oh,
she was going to be incapacitated because Sigourney Weaver wasn't terribly interested in being involved.
I would have been okay with that. Well, they wanted to use Michael Bihn's likeness for a dummy. They're like, we want to have him burn. He's like, no, I would like to do the movie. They're like, no, we're not going to go with that script. So he was like, no, you're not using my likeness. If you use it, I'm going to sue you. Not kill you.
I mean, it is Michael Biehn. I kind of believe it.
He'll just put on a mustache and slit your throat. But they...
Johnny Ringo.
Yolunger. Is that a slur? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Like, we probably just offended a few people out there.
I took it to mean somebody with tuberculosis. I thought that's kind of what I took it as.
Let's see, if we were really on top of our Tombstone shit, we'd be spitting Latin back and forth or something. But no, we're not that cool, unfortunately.
But they have to kill him off. And not use his likeness. So what do they do, Trevor?
Corporal Hicks gets a console impaled through his torso in his sleep. His entire midsection gets wrecked from the back upward, I believe.
I saw teeth. Like he looked like
he is Hamburger Man.
It looked like something from Predator 2. It looked like somebody was just mangled. It's pretty bad.
Oh yeah, no, we get a couple of lingering shots on it, and it's like, oh, that guy's dead.
Yeah, well,
you thought Bishop looked bad. Bishop is half a man at this point, but Hicks looks worse.
So yeah, the gore is pretty good in here. We kind of, I think it's 70-30, 60-40 CGI to actual puppets, actual practical.
I will correct you on that. I don't believe there is CGI in this movie.
I'm sorry?
Mm-mm.
What is that?
Puppets. Puppeteers.
So you're saying...
Badly green screened puppets, but puppets.
Are you sure? Because I watched the special edition, and it felt like Mortal Kombat, like...
That's actually what I was alluding to when I said before we get too deep into it.
Gotcha.
The last time you watched this movie, Kyle, did you watch the 2003 special edition or the theatrical version?
2003 special edition.
There you go. The 2003 special edition was produced without David Fincher's involvement, and it takes certain elements that were originally in the script and reinserts them into the film, as well as like a half an hour of additional scenes.
Yeah, that you don't need.
Which is why the most recent time I've seen the special edition, but the most recent viewing I had was the theatrical one, because I still remembered the special edition, but I wanted to get back to what was put in the theaters, what everybody saw when it first came out. But the special edition does have CGI.
Okay.
It does, like for the birthing scene in particular, when the alien first appears. That's actually probably the biggest change between the two versions, is that in the theatrical edition, the alien is birthed from a dog.
Gotcha.
And in the special edition, it's from like a yak or a water buffalo.
It's a bull of some kind.
It's a bull or a yak.
I'm gonna say water. I like water buffalo. That sounds better.
That sounds cool.
I like it. And she even mentions like this one doesn't move the same way. She's like, I noticed it.
That was actually an interesting point that I think with a different script and mostly just a different setting with a different movie. I really like the premise because this is the first time we've had an alien born from anything other than a human.
Yes.
And it stands to reason that if this thing is born from an organism, like maybe we can fudge the genetics a bit and have it borrow from the host in some capacity. Because like I remember the toys when I was a kid, like Aliens toys were made by Kenner, and I remember being really into them. I only got like one or two of them when I was young, but they were advertised. Yeah. I thought they were amazing because that was when the comic books were coming out, and that's what the designs were based off of. And they had like all the core cast from Aliens, like Ripley, and even people who died. Like I remember my brother teasing me because I was like, I want the Drake action figure because he's got the smart gun. My brother was like, he dies. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, haven't you seen the movie? He dies. But the Alien toys, they started doing a thing where they had different like animal type aliens. So they had like a cobra alien, and they had a bull alien, and they had like a mantis alien. And this movie represented the first time that concept was flirted with in the linear film franchise. And what we got here, if you're going by the theatrical edition, is a dog alien.
Gotcha.
From a design standpoint, we get more glamour shots of this thing than we really ever have up to this point. At least the drones. Like the Queen gets all the glamour shots. Yeah. But in this one, unlike the first one, we get some sustained shots of this thing. So we get a clear view of what it looks like. But it never really feels like a dog to me. No. Its behavior is different because the technology's improved to the point that we can actually show it skitter and like run, unlike the first Alien where it could barely move. Yeah. But yeah, other than being absurdly aggressive and not having the tubing, it's more streamlined for sure. It doesn't look all that different. It has like almost like not like an amber, but like a bronzish color to it in certain lighting. But yeah. I prefer it being born from a dog as opposed to like a water buffalo or whatever, but that's just me.
Yeah, what did you think about the set? Like
some of them are spectacular.
You know how much I love the inside of a spaceship, but I think this is the best set design of any of the movies.
I don't know about best. I think for me, I mean, obviously, I jerked off to Aliens for like 2.5 hours last time we were on the air.
Correct.
You watched.
I watched.
You stood by and watched.
He locked the door and just went off.
But I feel like Aliens takes the cake, but that's just me.
I respect that.
Almost every argument comes down to Alien or Aliens. So it's either one of those. This one, though, there's a couple of sets that are absolutely spectacular. Like the lead works is wonderful to look at. The fire tunnel is all right, but you can tell that they're reusing it from time to time, and those sequences in particular really threw me off because that and the lead works have this serious editing problem where it's confusing in the wrong way, where it's meant to be like chaotic and claustrophobic, but it's like, I have no spatial awareness.
Yeah, when they're running around the tunnels, I'm like, I have no idea.
I have no clue where anyone is in relation to each other. They're just running probably down the same hallway over and over and over again.
It literally is. It's like the abyss. It's just like they're running all around along this thing. I'm like, I have no idea where anything is.
The worst example that comes to mind is that first Kingsman movie.
Oh.
That, like, the whole last half hour of that movie is Taron Egerton running up and down the same hallway. Literally back down the same hallway in the script.
It's one of the dumbest things I've ever had to sit through. Besides, I don't know what's worse. What's the latest James Bond that we did an episode on? Spectre or the Kingsman? Which is worse?
Spectre.
I think you're right.
Aside from watching Dave Bautista punch Daniel Craig, yeah.
I shivered the other day when I was just thinking about Spectre, dude. Just the fucking was like, how much do you drink? Too much. I'm like, oh, fuck off. Really? How did we get to the mountain? What are we doing? Is this a psychiatric facility?
I'm picturing you at work, like, just pausing and dropping a plate or something.
Oh my god, this is so stupid.
Felt a tremor in the forest.
You're his adopted brother? You're his adopted brother. Oh my god, you want to kill him because your dad liked him more.
How did he get $1 trillion to form this organization?
It'll scramble your brain. And my nose started bleeding.
Like, I think I see your one eye wandering.
My god. Anyway, yeah, so I do I love the set. I like what they're doing. It's the curtains. And it would have. I love that. I like what they're trying to. It's like an old haunted hospital feel to it.
It's very gothic.
Yeah, I'm like, it works, and especially with this kind of monster that is pretty elusive and somehow is pretty elusive. It's fucking 7 feet tall.
It's probably bigger than that.
Seriously.
And it's like hissing and roaring.
Another movie that came to mind when I was watching this, the film I'm talking about is The Element of Crime, Lars von Trier. I've mentioned it to you before, 1984 art film. I would suggest you watching it just for the editing. It's just phenomenal for the editing, but it's filmed in sepia, and there are moments where the inside of this set I feel it's white. It's white, and I feel like there are times where it feels sepia, like the lighting just changes a little bit from here.
Oh yeah, the lighting is for the most part like glorious in this film.
Maybe that's what I love about it. Maybe that it's not so much the set, it's the lighting.
I mean,
I love lighting.
The film is very handsome. From an audiovisual standpoint, it is very handsome. Yeah. It is not a lazy effort in any way. It's just missing that I don't want to say je ne sais quoi, but it is missing that special something.
One other thing about the actual filming that I wanted to mention before we kind of switch gears is the did you notice all the angles, the camera angles that are used, especially in this first half? Is that I've never noticed it in another Fincher movie, because we were shooting. I'm not sure what the shot is, but we're down on a knee basically, shooting from underneath. Two very tall actors, especially Charles Dance and Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why.
So David Fincher's movies tend to be very meticulously designed from a shooting standpoint. He takes his time with his setups. There's a reason why his movies endure the way they do, because they stick with you. They have a level of care and love put into them that's pretty rare. Even like I wouldn't say Gone Girl is one of his lesser films at all, but that's a beautiful fucking movie to look at and listen to. And just reading a couple of the production notes here and there, there were a lot of firsts in this movie. There were a lot of special effects and cinematography firsts that were attempted on this film.
Interesting. Like
very subtle things that only the people doing it would care about, but you and I consuming it, it jumps out as like neat, but like we don't actually know the details of what it went into it. But apparently, like as wonky as the alien special effects turned out, they were doing some like rod puppetry shit like live in front of the camera that was intensely complicated and involved like this thing moving on a rail in time with the camera with like 6 puppeteers moving this fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's very complicated, and some of the camera movements were on like mechanized like robotic armatures and stuff that were timed and like specifically lit to rotate in time with actors and stuff that probably took hours and days and weeks to set up.
I actually think this is the best. I think the xenomorphs look really, really good here. I think they're a little more detailed than the first two, in my opinion. I don't know what you think about that.
I tend to agree.
Yeah.
I tend to agree.
The puppets specifically, not the CGI pieces that I saw.
Well, one of the coolest things about being in the age range that you and I are is that we got to see like puppets and shit at like the height of their powers.
Yeah.
Because the fact of the matter is, like, until like around Jurassic Park's time, like puppetry and animatronics kept rolling along.
Yeah.
And it was only getting better. It was only the fact that CGI took over as like the new hotness, like the new thing that you got to push into your movie.
Matrix.
Kinda, but the point is, like, puppetry and animatronics and stuff, like, it's still evolving.
Yeah.
Like there's still work to be done. It's just the number of people who go into that line of work has slimmed to nothing at this point. But the point I'm trying to make here is that 1986 was Aliens. 1992 is Alien 3. There were developments.
Yeah.
Like the craft had improved. And not only that, Tom Woodruff Jr. was the fellow that was largely in charge of the alien design for Alien 3. And he's still working to this day, as far as I know. Oh, wait, I think his son actually took over.
What were his big ones?
Mostly the Alien franchise. His company's called Amalgamated Dynamics. They had this movie that got crowdfunded that I went out of my way to watch. It's called Harbinger Down. It's awful. It's awful, but I wanted to watch it because it was, I think, directed by him, and it was made by his company, Amalgamated Dynamics. Basically, they do makeup effects and animatronics, and they got funding to make like the thing on a boat, basically, in the Arctic, and it's not good. Even in terms of makeup effects, it's not good. But it was cool to see. Also, he did work on the AVP movies and the Thing prequel. He was the one that his team worked on the practical effects before they got nixed from the end product.
Speaking of nixed from the end product, you want to talk about the autopsy?
Oh yeah, I mentioned that on one of the previous episodes. Yeah, that scene is infamous for apparently causing people to vomit in the theater. I don't know if I can't remember if it made it to the theatrical edition of the film, but at the very least it was in like early screener versions of the film. And apparently there was footage of Newt being cut open by Charles Dance, and it just rubbed people the wrong way, made a lot of people uncomfortable, made some people queasy, and in fact I think one of the writers or the producers on the film actually said, like, I know one thing that's getting cut from that movie.
People can't handle this. You know how much fun that second one was? This is such a jump, dude.
It needs to be said, the editing during that sequence, and when Ripley is basically anytime somebody's fumbling around with their hands. Basically, anybody's doing any sort of craft work in this movie. When Ripley's turning Bishop back on and stuff, like the editing is so smooth.
Really
it's like
good.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
It feels like you're watching a person that's skilled with their hands, like just kind of like do their thing, and it's almost like one of those YouTube videos where it's like this is meant to just kind of like occupy your attention. It's like I don't know what it is, but I can't stop watching it.
Well, it's really effective with when he's doing the autopsy because he's grabbing certain tools. It's just like open the chest, and then he grabs that big saw thing. And
Bone saw.
back to the noises. He must have had like a good some carrots. I don't know what was making all these crunching noises, but we hear like the alien eating a human, and you hear this someone grinding their teeth almost.
Well, sound design, anyone involved in horror will tell you sound design is how you make a scary movie. And the autopsy sequence, I think, is excellent.
Yeah.
I don't need to see any more than we see. We do get like a little peek at her chest cavity. But yeah, the sound effects, like when he opens the rib cage, because like Ripley, like in tears, is like the chest.
Yeah.
Chest, and he's like,
oh no,
and yeah, the crunching noises. It's like, ooh, ooh.
I think that's one of the highlights of this movie was the crunching. That's
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but like the gore in this movie is tastefully executed,
yes,
but plentiful and well done.
And like you said, way more than the first two. Actually, there's hardly any in the first two.
Compared to the first two are fairly tame for the most part.
Because anytime there's like somebody getting injured on screen in the first two, it has to do. I mean, besides the chest bursting where there's actually blood. Usually, most of the injuries are like acid, like they're doing. Someone's getting burned by the acid, or somebody's getting accidentally shot, maybe. But yeah, in this, we're like in the special edition, busting out of the cow. Like there's actually like blood and shit coming out. And I was gonna mention that scene's pretty cool because while we're talking about gore, is where like the opening scene, we're getting that cut between the funeral that they're holding, and then is he coming out of the dog? Because in the special edition, it's coming out of the bull. And we're going back and forth between the funeral. It's
cut the same way.
Okay.
Just different setting and different animal. But yeah, the intercutting between those two scenes. I mean, even I feel like that was an element in the script that was probably not messed around with very much because the editing of that sequence to me seems fairly set in stone. Because Charles S. Dutton's speech is it's all about life and death and rebirth.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're having a funeral while there's a birth happening. It's pretty simple, but you get it.
Sorry, go ahead.
But while we're talking about that sequence in particular, music's really good there, by the way.
Very good.
How do you feel about the difference between animals, the birthing sequence? Because I would not be surprised if the choice was made to have a water buffalo instead of a dog, because that could be another scene that would trigger some people.
Well, I mean, if anybody had seen Apocalypse Now up until this point, I'm fine seeing a cow die. It's not a big deal.
But dogs, in this country in particular,
yes.
Like I had a friend when this movie was new, that I guess that sequence in Alien 3, when the dog bursts open, it flipped him the fuck out.
Well, I'm a dog dad, so anytime I see dogs being hurt on screen, I don't remember what movie I was watching, but... I think it was when you or your brother had me. It might have been when Lobster. That's what it was.
The Lobster.
Lost episode. We did an episode on the Lobster, and I'm like, the lady comes in and is like, "I killed your dog." And I'm like, fuck. Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, so yeah, I think that I forgot how it happens in the movie, but yeah, I would not have taken the dog dying very well. And even The Thing, I have trouble watching The Thing during that sequence.
See, personally, I prefer the dog. I mean, I'm not as much a dog guy as many people out there, but I feel like it was just executed with a little bit more care, and it's more suspenseful to me because the dog, the way it happens with the dog is Ripley. By the way, Ripley crash lands on a planet called Fury 161.
Oh, Fury 161. Yes.
Yeah, it's
correctional facility for double Y chromosome.
Yeah, it's a Weyland-Yutani facility. It's basically closed down. The way 85 phrases it, or no, Charles Dance phrases it, is keep the pilot light on.
Yeah.
Basically, they have a couple of like industrial furnaces there that need occasional maintenance, so they have people keeping the furnaces burning, and it doubles as a prison because there's no way off the planet.
Yeah.
It's all dudes, like you said, double Y chromosomes. In the theatrical version of the film, the EEV, the emergency escape vehicle from the Sulaco jettisons while the spacecraft is still in orbit, and all the quote-unquote survivors crash on the planet in the EEV. In your version, I believe Ripley washes up on a beach.
Yeah, she does. Because she's... it's actually... That's what I say. Maybe that's not what you saw, because Charles Dance is just kind of walking through this...
Yeah, the Red Desert shot.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I don't remember...
That's why. We should go back and just watch that beginning part.
There's not a whole lot of outdoor shots in the theatrical edition.
Just watch that opening sequence again. I know you want to. The credit sequence.
It is good.
And then the Red Desert shot, because she comes up on shore. That's why I'm like, maybe this movie's gonna be really good, and I just was a little harsher on it, or maybe I'm really gonna enjoy it this time. The first half, yeah, for sure. Once the warden dies, you're right. It's just this isn't a movie anymore.
But yeah, the
dog.
there's there's a face hugger that we see during the opening credits, probably in every version of the movie. But the way the dog gets it is after all the survivors have been taken off of the EEV, they just leave the vehicle out there because it's too big to haul by hand, and then one of the prisoners has a dog who goes up to the EEV by itself, and it's barking at something, and we just get like one shot of like a face hugger, like
that's all you need.
Yeah, it's just squirming. It doesn't pounce or anything. It's there and it's moving, so we know it's alive. And then the next time we see the dog, it's like in this little cubby. It's basically like where the janitor guy from Die Hard 2 is hanging out.
Yeah.
It's basically in the basement of the prison. Just like Vietnam.
He says Hiroshima.
Hiroshima. That's right.
Just like Hiroshima. Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, the dog. Next time we see it, it has like this hideous claw mark on its face, and it's like whimpering and stuff. See, your reaction as I'm telling it to you is probably why it's not.
Which is smart. We built a fucking film franchise off of a dead dog. John Wick. I think it.
He's still killing people.
He's still killing.
And people are still applauding him for doing it.
People are get the fuck out of his way. All right, he's going to kill you. I want to rewatch that fucking knife stores, that sequence again. You got it? Of course you do. I just want to see that sequence again. It's so good. But I think it's wiser to go with a dog because you get the feelies. You get like the... Oh.
I think that's why I like it better. That and we get the scene where it has the claw marks on it. It's pretty raggedy. Like the person who did the makeup on that dog...
Fantastic.
Like that is a good dog. Good boy. You sat still for many hours. But like the prisoner, we see him like he cares about the dog, and he's like looking at it like, who the fuck would do this to a dog? Like my dog. And then it is pretty savage when the alien bursts out of it. It's pretty brutal.
I
like
saw
the sound, like sound design. It makes crunching, the crunching, but the dog vocalization exactly. See, even
that's good though. That's
good.
That's good.
But it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's good.
That's what you're trying to build here. It's an alien movie. Like you need to be uncomfortable.
Well, and if you're gonna have like fucking gigantic orchestra music with goddamn Charles S. Dutton preaching at a funeral, cross-cut with an alien birth, yes, it's okay to go over the top with the emotional stuff. And yeah, the vocalizations of the dog like whimpering and stuff. Same friend, Godzilla 1985, when Godzilla falls into the volcano. Yes, he falls into a volcano, by the way.
Jeez.
Idiot.
Fucking idiot.
How could you not see it coming?
Well, he's cold-blooded. He was just trying to get warm. He went too far.
He's a big lizard.
Big lizard.
But yeah, he makes a wail that my friend hate. It's actually chilling.
Is it really?
Like, ooh. It's good.
Cue it up after this.
Okay, I will.
I was gonna mention. I want to talk about the characters, like what we're doing. Like, so in the first movie, blue collar. It's a blue collar space movie. We're going out, or we're coming back from mining. Second movie, we bring Ripley and then a company man and a bunch of Marines. So
there's a lot of continuity between the two movies, despite a massive passage of time.
Yes. This movie, I want to talk about helpless versus capable characters. I'm trying to put something together here. So one of the things that I think the first two movies do is we have a balance between helpless and capable. What I mean is we have a strong character, Yaphet Kotto, Charles S. Dutton, Michael Biehn. We have this. These are men examples in all these movies. But I would say that Sigourney Weaver is that character as well. She's a strong character, a capable character. But you also have helpless characters. Newt in the second one. Harry Dean Stanton's kind of a helpless character. The other lady, like when you see them die on screen, you're like, oh no, like I didn't want to see them die.
They're victims.
Yeah, they're innocent people basically. Yeah. But when you have a capable person die, it carries a lot of weight to it. Like Charles S. Dutton in this movie, pretty good death. Like
pretty good fucking death.
I actually just got goosebumps thinking about it just now.
You know that same music you accused of being kind of
it works there.
Oh yeah, it fucking works there.
It's not a rape scene. It works.
I mean, when he taking off his glasses.
Vasquez and the lieutenant dying. Like these are capable characters.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't really we don't really have character development here. We have three capable characters that we really like. Charles Dance wasn't going to make it. Sorry. He's not going to make it. You're too evil looking to make it to the end credits, buddy. But yeah, in this, we just don't really have that. I don't really give a shit about these characters because bringing Ripley into a different environment, which I think was a good idea. We're bringing her into an area where there's no guns. There are no guns on this planet. None. What does he say? I wrote it down. Like sticks and knives, I think is what he says. But it's legit. Just like we have got nothing here. And she's also around a bunch of men who are violent criminals and who haven't seen a woman in years. And I do like when she comes she comes into the room with everybody and it just stops and you can feel the tension.
No, I like her scene with Charles S. Dutton where she's trying to make friends and he won't even look at her.
She asserts herself too in this scene.
Well, yeah, that's why he starts talking to her is because she sits down anyway. Yeah. Even though he basically sends all the signals you're not wanted here.
He says, I'm a murderer and rapist of women.
That's how he says hi.
Literally, that's the first words he says to her.
She's like, I wanted to thank you for your lovely words at the funeral.
She hasn't had a good day in 67 years? 60? I don't know how many years she was in cryo sleep for this time. She was definitely, 67 years the first time?
It's like, I think it was 57 between the first and the second film. And then this one, I don't know how many years passed, but probably not as much.
We'll say 6 months. I like 6 months.
It's probably a lot, but I don't know.
No, considering how long Newt and what's his face were dead, he would have definitely looked much worse than that, I think. So it's probably only been like a week, maybe, I'll say.
Well, I mean, she was only on the planet for like a week, but I don't know how long they were drifting out there.
It doesn't matter. Sorry, but
it's all relative to Ripley.
But there are only 3 characters that I really care about in this movie. One of them dies in the first, in the David Fincher movie, in the first part of the movie. But I like the hostile environment that they set up here.
It's a good concept, and I feel like that was an element that was in most of the scripts before we started shooting on this film. 2 of the more interesting scripts, one of which was written by, is it William Gibson? It's the guy who did this book called, I think it was Neuromancer. A friend of mine lent it to me when I was working with them.
It sounds like B movie.
It's Cyberpunk.
Okay.
Which is starting to come back into vogue.
Bring it back.
We have a game actually coming out called Cyberpunk that's actually like one of the highest profile releases in a long time. But I mean, that Alita movie for sure is that aesthetic. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, he's a prolific sci-fi author, very like lauded for his world building and stuff and his visions of the future. And basically, it was supposed to be like space communists. And it would be like a bunch of space communists in a shopping mall planet.
Jeez.
It was supposed to be like a 2-parter where the space communists they wrangle the aliens to fight a war.
Oh, interesting.
Obviously, that didn't get off the ground, but you can see some elements there where it's like stranger in a strange land kind of stuff. But probably the craziest script out there was one that I told you about a long time ago, where it's like a space station made out of wood. And everyone in there is a monk. So they're like Luddites. So they reject technology. And then the alien and Ripley show up, and they think the alien is the devil, and they lock Ripley away because they're all men, and they're also intensely religious. And by the way, you brought a devil with you, and you have different genitalia than us.
Yeah.
And you can see parts of that in the finished product, where the religious elements of it, and then the treatment of her being this other that we were not comfortable with.
I was going to mention writing a female character good, writing a female character well again. She's kind of she hits on Charles Dance.
Absolutely.
It's kind of I didn't pick up on it.
She comes like a millimeter shy of just grabbing his crotch.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
just saying gimme.
I was thinking about like it's just kind of, I guess, culturally in our country, there's like women don't make a first move. It's not something that's done. I was actually thinking of Orange County. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
No.
There's a funny scene where she said, "There's a lot of cuties at this party." The one girl goes, "Lock me up because I am horny." I remember being such a funny line because it's like, girls don't talk like that. And here we see she's making the first move on Charles Dance, and I love how he reacts to it too. He kind of has like a shy guy, like a little movement, like it's been a while for me.
It's not proper.
Yeah, he's a little fidgety, like he's a little nervous. It's adorable, really. Like he said, "Oh, okay." But yeah, she makes the first move, and I'm like, nice. but yeah, the characters I don't give a shit about. But I wanted to ask you about Bishop.
Oh,
How did you? I mean, compared to Alien, the Bishop talk that we do in this one, the droid talk that we do, I really like this because it's not Ian Holm Ian Holm dummy
head
and then
shoved up through a table.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is
It is full animatronic.
I think it's bitchin'. I think
It's
really
excellent.
I thought
it
it was
holds
awesome.
up, and then some. The lip sync is incredible.
Yeah.
I love the voice modulation.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have imitated it here and now.
Really?
It's awesome. It's a good scene.
It sounds like what's his face in Independence Day when he gets the really spray.
Oh, Brent Spiner.
Yeah, Brett Spiner. Really spray. It's like
Dr. Oaken.
the last 24 hours have been really exciting.
How the fuck did he make it into that second movie?
He's affable. I mean, it's Brett.
Well, yeah, obviously it's Brent Spiner. He's very affable. Everybody loves Brent Spiner. I mean, if you want to get sci-fi nerds to see your movie, put him in there.
That's a good move.
But he was dead.
Very dead. I'm sure Adam Baldwin accidentally shot him at least once. At least once. Dude, they shoot the fuck out of that thing.
You did a fucking Collateral, Tom Cruise in Collateral. I watched that again, that clip just a couple of days ago.
Oh, the Mozambique drill.
Oh, God.
Dum-dum-dum.
I love his reloading technique. It's like smooth. Oh, alternate ending. Me and my friend dreamed this up a long time ago. Well, it's not an alternate ending, but a funny interpretation of the ending of Collateral. So my friend and I were watching it at like his house or something, and basically, Jamie Foxx shoots him. Spoiler alert.
If you haven't seen Collateral, get off your ass.
And then Tom Cruise goes to do his reloading trick, and then he drops the magazine, and he has that moment where he sits down. But his facial acting, I was like, oh man, he's really depressed. He's like, I never mess up. He just sits down. And I was like, what if he didn't get shot? He was just so stunned that he just gave up the fight. Where he's just like,
no, it was.
I don't want to fight anymore.
That was like a Francis Ford Coppola with Martin Sheen, where he says, no, just let the camera roll. That was Tom Cruise just messing up, and he was just sitting down
it's just seething. Yeah. Like the temperature just goes right the fuck up in the room. It's like, how is he generating so much heat? It's like, it's the power of Xenu.
Turn off your phones if it
burns hot within him.
Turn off your phones if it goes off. It's gonna
No. The phones have to shatter. All the lights start flickering. It's like, Tom's angry.
He's angry.
Get him a Diet Coke. Diet Coke. The train's vibrating.
What do you want, Peck? So yeah, I have my Lars von Trier Element of Crime popped up in my notes. Did you notice the bird on the warden's desk?
The Sippy Bird.
The Sippy Bird.
Sippy Bird.
That's a big hit in Mad Men. They bring it in. They're like, I gotta figure out how this thing works. I'm like, well, it's an alien. So yeah, so there's not an actual xenomorph death until 54 minutes in, and it's when those three jabronis are walking around.
No, there's one before that. The fan.
I'm saying that one.
He causes it.
He causes a death.
He causes a death. He doesn't actually.
Yeah.
Eat the guy or mangle him.
He just scares him.
Yeah. Well, he takes a chunk out of his face.
Yeah.
That scene felt like it belonged in a different movie. It felt very 50s B movie.
Yeah.
Or 80s B movie, 80s homage to a 50s B movie kind of. It just felt like generic monster movie stuff where it's like, I'm going to poke my head into this creepy looking acid burnt hole right after I found a shed skin for an alien life form.
The man who plays Andrews, the warden, he's passed away, but I love the casting.
He was great.
He was great.
He's one of the best characters in the movie.
He is. And I think it's just from his voice, because Sigourney Weaver's, Sigourney Weaver, Charles Dance never really gets above this tone.
Charles Dance always sounds so irritated.
Oh, I'm sorry. He does get loud.
I have to take a shit. It's been about 2 weeks.
If Charles Dance ever walks up to you and asks if you can help him with something, you're going to... Other people are going to hear him yell, but not
hello, good citizen.
I've just shot a man.
and I don't even care.
I'm going to cue that up here before. But yeah,
times.
I love the warden.
I feel like his audition must have been done in a room with a good echo.
Yeah,
because he has an auditorium voice.
he has big lungs. Like his voice carries.
He has the right. He has the right level of authority and just like, I don't know. He is such a company man.
Yeah.
It's like he is the warden. Like,
Yeah.
24/7.
Very much so.
His pants never come off.
They do ramp up the Wayland industry a bit more.
A lot more.
They're actually running the show. Like,
Well, this is like they have a more overt physical presence in the movie.
Yeah.
Like at the very end, anyway. Because in Aliens, we get the boardroom sequence at the beginning, and then Paul Reiser throughout the movie. In the first movie, it's all just like messages and the computer, like the mother computer. But in this one, it's like we have a ticking clock where it's like, oh, the company guys are going to show up in a week, and by the way, their signage is everywhere in this facility.
I do like, because I didn't really piece together. Like, I know what happens in this movie. I know that Ripley has the face hugger in her. She's got the alien inside of her.
Yeah.
But I didn't piece it together for a while watching it because what is it? Charles Dance is like, I can tell what happened to her. She drowned. They do the autopsy. She drowned. She was worried that the face hugger was in the little girl, and she never pieces it together that it's her that it's in. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of surprised by that I didn't catch that for a while in this.
Yeah, if I remember right, I took note of a couple of time codes in the movie, and it's funny you mentioned like the first proper xenomorph deaths in this movie happened at about the 50-minute mark. That's about the time it takes for Sigourney Weaver to start like
getting sick,
exhibiting symptoms of pregnancy or infection or whatever you want to call it. She starts like, you know, like.
Just getting gassed.
Yeah, she's gassy.
We go back to we're actually doing like a traditional gestation period.
That's what's interesting is that we talked about this on episodes prior, but the gestation period of the xenomorph is always just kind of up in the air. Like it's the most plot convenient thing out there.
AVP, it's through the roof.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's immediate.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes fully
Flat.
grown. Ready to kill.
Yeah.
And this one, I mean, like I said, the clock's ticking. It is explicitly stated a week.
Yeah.
So she's been carrying this thing for at least 7 days.
Well, she ramps it up though. So they're supposed to be there for a week, and she's like, I think when she finds out she has one in her, she's like, tell them that we have to kill the xenomorph or whatever. They're like, no, we'll be there in 2 hours. Like, we're gonna be there immediately.
Yeah. I mean, this is like me trying to explain things away, but it could be argued that, I mean, as we'll see in Alien Resurrection, the chestburster that she has happens to be a queen. Maybe gestation period's a little longer because it's a fucking queen.
Interesting. But how do they just try to find a good host? Does it have to be a woman? Does it have to have the anatomy of a woman? So when the face hugger goes on, how does it find a queen? Why isn't there more than one queen? Do they just choose?
I would imagine I don't actually know how that works in like insect societies, but I would imagine it's kind of similar to the whole Jurassic Park spiel where it's out of like evolutionary need.
You bred raptors.
Or it's, you know, some West African frogs are known to spontaneously switch sexes. I would not be surprised if it's that kind of case where it's like, there aren't any eggs. Maybe it's time to make a queen.
Yeah. This has one of the most iconic shots, like iconic film shots, and definitely the poster for the whole franchise is when Charles Dance dies and it comes up to her and sniffs her.
Oh yeah, it's Charles Dance. Like, it's a good death. It's a good death. It's needs to be said. This movie, like I said, I do think it is the most violent of the Alien movies. I mean, Resurrection gets points for like just gore.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah.
A couple of moments in there, it's like, okay, you win. But on the whole, this one, I think the amount of bloodletting and the amount of detail put into it is pretty fucking high. And the violence is very classy in that we only get a few frames of it, which is probably for the best. We don't like linger on it. It's just kind of like a flash, and it's like, oh, that was bad.
Leave it to the imagination. I think that's very powerful in horror. If you can get like a really good a good scary movie, horror movie, and leave more to the imagination. That's why the Blair Witch Project did so well, honestly. Because you don't see a Blair Witch.
Yeah, no, you see a man peeing on a wall. But, I mean, there's a lot of head explosions in this movie. And, yeah, Charles Dance, he gets his head wrapped up in one of those lovely curtains. And he gets his forehead punctured with the tongue. But, yeah, the shot that Kyle is alluding to here is, it's classic shit. Where it's Sigourney Weaver posted up against a wall in tears. And then the alien's head, like, inches away from her face, like, snarling at her. That's iconic shot, maybe for the, like you said, the entire franchise.
I think it's the franchise shot. If you
may as well be.
I meant to go back to the bishop scene. I really like the discussion that like the dialogue in this scene. She's like, "What happened? What caused it?" And he does like the fire on board.
Yeah,
like,
he accesses the Sulaco's like black box, I guess.
Yeah, it's
flight recorder or something.
Yeah, the flight recorder, something like that. The log. It's the flight log, and she's like, "Was there an alien on board?" Yes, and
just
like,
flat.
Just flat. Yeah, I love the delivery.
Yeah, instead of ramping up the suspense, it's just, why would he do that? He's a cyborg, or he's an android.
I do like the dynamic between Charles Dance and Sigourney Weaver and Charles Dance and Andrews.
Yeah, the warden.
Yeah, she's kind of keeping it from him, like, what... She's doing a good job of killing, like, yeah, I need you to do an autopsy because I think there's cholera. And he's like, there's not been a case of cholera in fucking 50 years.
200 years.
Yeah. And she's just still, like, he's trying to get it out of her, He never finds out, by the way.
He's like, I'd sooner believe that you had a magic theater ticket that could transport you to different dimensions.
Eat the bowl of rice.
Arnold Schwarzenegger on Fury 161.
What's his name? Jack Slater.
Jack Slater in space on this very planet. You
really need to watch Game of Thrones for him.
I know.
His death is great.
But I like the interplay between all those characters. It's just the movie kind of throws them out the window.
Well, it throws out the window, but also it relies too much on it. Like, we're fluffing with these dynamics between characters.
We're robbing the audience of screen time with all the other people in this prison, of which there are many.
I think that...
there are at least 30 people in this movie.
It's 28 colonists that are left behind.
Yeah, there are a lot of people, most of whom are written off during the fire scene.
I think the tension... another thing that kind of releases the tension is the first alien is on a spaceship, small ship. And then the second one is... It was started on a ship, but now we're in a colony, but we're closed off. And it's... I'm sure it's a much bigger area, but it feels smaller.
Yeah.
But in this movie, there's space. I mean, like, there's just
too much, in fact.
There's too much space. And
the first deaths we have, those three guys. The one guy with the comically deep voice.
Yeah.
The gigantic black guy with
the... real big guy.
No compartment. It's like, Jesus. Like, you got marbles in your throat. Jesus. But that scene always puzzled me, to this day, because they're lost.
Yeah.
They're lost.
Yeah, it's a huge facility.
Like, they don't know where they are.
It takes away from it kind of takes away from the suspense a little bit, because it's not. It could be around any corner, but like, this place is huge. You've got places to run. In the first movie, there's nowhere to run, dude. You are on the ship.
Well, yeah, and that worked very well with that situation.
Yeah,
because we have a single creature, much like we do here, and it felt very claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And we never see the thing move terribly fast. But we have these tight quarters that we're working with. So it's like, if I do run into this thing, probably not going to be able to run away, which, makes it so every time it's not on screen, it has your brain running, thinking, oh shit, it's around that corner. Whereas this one, we get wide open spaces. And I mentioned this to you off the air, where like the strategy they assume in dealing with this thing, like, it makes sense from a screenplay standpoint.
Yeah.
Like, from a writing standpoint, it's clever, exciting stuff. But personally, I think it would have been more interesting to do like the Edge kind of thing, like,
yeah,
where it's
lure him.
Or where it's like man versus beast. And
Yeah.
I mean, we have people wielding torches in this movie.
Yeah.
And even the lighting, it feels like very primitive. Like there's a lot of browns and browns and beige. It feels like it could have been a good opportunity to say, call back to that line where it's like, oh yeah, we got like butter knives and stuff. It's like, well, you got duct tape and butter knives and a mop. Like, let's put a knife on the end of a mop and fucking fight the alien like it's a bear or something.
So do you think that David Fincher's what he wanted to do was up to the first third act of the movie where they actually trap it? They trap it into this container that it cannot get out of, and then the fucking crazy dude, they're like, no, that's not good enough, we gotta let the crazy dude let it out. Like, the movie was done. Like, it was over with. we trapped him. That was the difficult part. But then if they would have just had, we need to kill it, and like trying to find a way to kill it with no weapons or anything like that, or we have to let it out and we have to kill it some way, would have been fine. But instead of having a crazy dude let it out and like reset, we got to do the movie we have to do the ending all over again.
See, that's actually funny. That's only in the special edition.
Oh, okay. What happens in the theatrical?
There's
no trapping it.
There's no trapping it.
Oh.
There is no trapping of it in the theatrical edition. Theatrical edition, the first plan. By the way, Charles Dance buys it. The thing presumably does not kill Ripley because it smells the alien inside her, which makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's like, oh, that's a queen. It's like, that's going to be my boss.
Yeah. Sorry, boss.
It's like, whoa. And then like 2 seconds later, it kills the warden. Another good death. Yanks him up through the ceiling while he's delivering a speech. Very proper death for that guy. And then at that point, it's like, okay, we're about halfway through the movie. All of our character development has gone to the 2 characters who just exited the film.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with a
screaming Charles S. Dutton.
No, it just leaves us with a sea of anonymous faces and a screaming Charles S. Dutton.
Well, this is where, let's do some Monday morning quarterback here. Ramp up those unclassy deaths. Like, start killing dudes, like, on screen. Like,
well, what we get instead is, I believe it's like it feels like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, where it's like Ripley standing among a sea of like ashen faces, and she's like, we're gonna fight and we're gonna win. And like instantly everyone defers to her, because they
have no other choice.
She's been talking about this thing the whole time, so they assume that she knows something that they don't. Pro tip, when she fought these things, she had an airlock, a power loader, and or a gun.
As you mentioned,
now she has none of those things.
I was to say, airlock is how we defeated it 2 times now.
Yeah, so she doesn't know any more than you do. If you know how to fight, you know as much as she does. Yeah, honestly. But this may have been her flexing her producer credit or a flub in the script. But yeah, everybody just kind of looks to her for all the answers. And the first plan we come up with, and I can't remember if this. I'm guessing this is in the special edition. Basically, we start setting like fire traps.
Yeah, so it's the goo.
Yeah, we're like dumping kerosene everywhere, and like Pete Postlethwaite helps out. This is where he gets his 2 lines in the movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're
develop him. I don't want him to die. Let him.
I love Pete Postlethwaite. Exactly. James the Giant Peach. He's charming.
Do you remember him in The Town?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
I'll clip your nuts like your.
He was
your
fierce.
Fuck, that was a good scene.
Ferocious.
That was his last movie. I think he died shortly after that.
It's small, but it's fierce.
Oh, it's small, but it's fierce. That was I love that scene. That's so good. But anyway, I'm sorry.
But yeah, I remember a line here and there from Sigourney Weaver where she basically says like we don't have any weapons or whatever, but we have fire, right?
Right. I believe that most cavemen even had fire. Yeah,
you don't have to be sarcastic about it.
It's so good.
85 is kind of funny in this. That is a great nickname, by the way.
There's some clever a few things I like where he's like, God damn it, where's this thing? He's like, no cursing. He's like, fine. Like, shit, no cursing. He's like, shit's not a curse word. Like, he's just getting angry. Like, there's some little back.
No, there are some clever moments here and there.
Anything Charles Dance is saying it's clever. Like, whatever he's starting to say, it's not what you're expecting him to finish with. Like, oh, nice, very, very good writing. Good dialogue for his character.
Yeah. But yeah, basically what happens here is there's an accident and it causes a gigantic fire, which allows us to whittle the cast down from about like 25 to about like 8, 9. It's a good way to eliminate like a huge chunk of the cast because we didn't bother to write anyone. Really funny factoid that I might be wrong, but I seem to remember it being in like one of the Guinness Book of World Records like bathroom readers that we had at my house when I was little. Apparently somebody in this movie, one of the stunt people, did like the longest full body burn in film.
I think you're right.
In film history up to that point. It's probably been surpassed and then some. But what's funny is in the finished film, I don't think I see any. I don't think I see a single frame of that.
There is in the special edition. So
okay.
Their second plan gets fudged because one of the dude drops the thing to ignite it, and then it's actually really good. So he's like crawling up this tunnel. He drops.
That's in the theatrical too.
And then you see the xenomorph come above, and then you that really odd slow motion where it comes down and ignites. That's the guy. One of the guys that gets set on fire. There's like I think almost a second of the frame.
But apparently on the set the guy was on fire for quite a while.
Jesus.
But it didn't make it into any version of the film. That's very interesting. But if I remember right, and this is me going purely by memory, it's been a long time, but in the special edition, when they trap it, the guy who frees it is the one who is rambling about the dragon, right?
Yes, the crazy guy.
See, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that does make sense, although...
But we didn't need to do that.
I mean, that's not what you want to have happen to the alien halfway into the movie. You don't want to have it be, like, outsmarted that early in the movie. Yeah, that kind of takes away some of its menace.
There's ways to get around it, like, they're opening it up and it's already gone. Like, oh, fuck, it already got out or something like that.
But see, I mean, not to dwell on it too much, but, like,
Well, I think we're dwelling on more than they did, so...
Yeah, obviously. That line from Ripley about the fire, that's where my brain keeps coming back to. Is like, wouldn't it be kind of cool if we had like a primitive man versus alien?
Yeah,
we've never seen that on film. Like, I'm just picturing guys like banging pots to like corral
distract it.
Yeah, well, not even distract it, just like push it back because it's loud noises.
Yeah,
it's like any animal is going to react badly to
fire
that.
And loud noises. That's interesting.
Yeah, fire and loud noises, and then like. Take your best shot with a spear because eventually it's going to make a move on someone.
Yeah.
Hope it's not you. But just imagine a tiger superimposed onto the alien.
Yeah.
And it's just it's like 10 guys.
Hunting it. Like, I actually have to go hunt
literally hunting the alien because that's the only option.
That would have been more interesting, yeah.
I think it would have been really interesting.
Yeah.
But we've yet to see that on film.
No.
But instead, we get 3 apparently in the special edition, 3 elaborate plans.
Yeah.
Almost none of which work.
Almost none of them work. The ultimate plan is they're like, all right, we're gonna get it to this. They're gonna basically dump lead onto it, which is a good idea. That's solid.
Yeah, getting it to the lead is kind of a problem.
Yeah, everything goes. It goes to shit.
I mean, you can't exactly have a lead squirt gun. Like,
I think what happens is he dropped it. He dropped it. Everything caught on fire, so it just kicked everything into gear. Like, we're going now. So it ends up being Charles S. Dutton that gets him in, and this is actually like the tail. Did you remember this scene with the tail? Where Sigourney Weaver grabs it.
That happens a couple of times in the movie. They do this really interesting thing that it's not. I wouldn't call it horrifying, but it's definitely unnerving. Where basically, there's a couple of sequences where the alien is wrestling with somebody, where it's like in the process of killing them. Yeah. It's taking its fucking time. It's not doing like the lion thing and going straight for the jugular. It's like wrestling with people.
Yeah.
And we get this really oblong angle where it's intensely in the foreground and out of focus, and you just see limbs thrashing around, and you see like the tail whip. Yeah, and you see it like 2 or 3 times in this way, and the last time we see that is Charles S. Dutton walks in on it, drops the axe. Probably should have kept that.
Yeah, I should have kept
He drops the axe, and he's just like looking, and it's got a guy on the ceiling.
Yeah.
It's wrestling on the ceiling. It's doing some Freddy Krueger shit with this guy. And Charles S. Dutton, I mean, tank man.
Yeah.
He is a man tank.
Big, yeah.
Yeah. He actually frees the guy and like pulls him away just long enough for the guy to die away from the alien. But that happens a couple times in the movie. It's a really interesting choice. The sequence that you were talking about, though, where Ripley's like, "We gotta get you to the lead."
Yeah.
She's like grabbing it. She's like yelling at it and like swatting at it, and the thing is conflicted.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell it's like It's like roughhousing with a dog or something, where it's like it knows it's not supposed to go too hard, but it really does want to play with you.
Yeah.
But before we get to the climactic lead pouring sequence, I did want to ask you about the X-ray scene. So that's a pretty good scene, and it calls back to Prometheus a little bit.
Well, Prometheus calls back, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of. I forgot that this was in here when I was watching it.
It's right after the fire.
Yeah, she's starting to feel funny, and she's like, "Something's wrong with me, dude." So she takes 85.
Yeah. There's a character. He's like an assistant to the warden. That's his IQ.
Yeah.
Pete Postlethwaite tells us that. He says that when he first got there, they like snooped his personnel file.
His IQ's 85.
Yeah, so they call him that to piss him off.
I do like it.
It's pretty fucking good.
I do like how nonchalant they are about it.
Well, it's because the warden's gone,
Yeah.
and they have no respect for him.
None. 85. He's like, stop calling me that.
And he's so sheepish about it. Like, he knows that they're not going to stop.
She takes 85 with her. She's like, something's wrong with me. He's like, he's like, there's something in you. And he's like, I think it's one of those things. And she's like, oh, fuck. But it's that body scan thing that we need to get one. I think they might have one of those now. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's like a DEXA scan or an X-ray or something, but it's like a live feed that you can manipulate and rotate in real time. Yeah, she goes back to the EEV crash, the vehicle that she came to the planet in.
Yeah.
And it's still functional, I guess, to the point that they can use that. Because also another thing about the planet is that nothing works.
Nothing works.
Like, she even asks like about the security cameras and stuff. She's like, I see cameras everywhere. And he's like, it doesn't work.
They don't work.
Yeah, so they have no weapons and they have no technology for the most part. Again, a holdover from the old Monk script with the Luddites and stuff. But yeah, she does the scan, and curious choice of character that 85 would be the one in there with her.
Yeah.
Feels like Charles Dance would have been the more appropriate choice, but he's been dead for like a half an hour by then.
Well, I think 85 is the one that does he let the Waylon know that she has one inside of her?
I think so.
I think that's what it is, but he does. He's not. The actor's not giving me a Weasley enough character, or he's actually conflicted because he has his own little redemption later.
Yeah. They try to do something with him, and he's mostly likable, but it's just weird seeing his goofy ass in there with her.
Yeah,
like his goofy ass telling her the worst of like bad news.
They need someone that can communicate with Waylon, the Waylon Corporation, and he's the only one.
Yeah, you're right. Like from a screenwriting standpoint,
it makes sense.
You know, from a purely utilitarian standpoint, yes, it had to be him. But it's just weird. And the Charles Dance business, like, I know we keep coming back to it, but it's like you can tell that they wanted to do something there where it's like, I mean, you cast Charles Dance.
Yeah.
He's played the fucking Phantom of the Opera at one point. He is a red herring to some extent. You do suspect him of something because his demeanor seems untrustworthy.
He might be the most just naturally villainous looking person, like just actor. Like there's the guy from I don't know if you ever saw A Knight's Tale. He's also in
Rufus Sewell.
Yes, Rufus Sewell.
Dark City.
Dark City. I should have said Dark City. Actually, less so because in Dark City he's not villainous at all. Like he doesn't even have the look.
Yeah, he's the hero.
But Charles Dance cannot carry himself in any other way. I've seen several of his movies.
Dude, if you were at a party and Charles Dance like locked eyes with you for a fraction of a second from across the room, you'd be like, "Honey, we're getting the car.
We gotta go.
We gotta go." Like that guy's got plans.
Joker is about to come in here, and that guy let him in.
It's just ding, elevator. It's like, nope, we're not seeing who's coming out of the elevator.
Nope. Yeah, I think that there must have been something.
There
wrong.
must have been something there because all the business with her and him, like hiding things from each other, like it seems like the idea was we're planting the seeds where it's like, can we trust him? Can we not? And then he's dead. Like at the end, he like imagine if he did have a heel turn at the end.
He could have absolutely had a heel turn
at the end. Like that would have been. Oof.
He could have like
because they have good rapport. Like they do have chemistry.
They do very much, and she could have been like, yeah, they want to take this thing because of how much it's like. She could have explained to him like, listen, the Wayland Corporation want this because of how like valuable it is, and he could have been like, I see, like I could get back into good graces, like I can be financially
and
off.
even what we do get in the finished film, like his
like all the morphine I can afford.
Fuck. I mean, his last scene before he dies is him telling his story, like spilling his guts about how he was a shitty doctor.
Yeah.
And he's here by choice. Like I think he already served his prison term. He's just kind of hanging out because he feels like an outcast from society. Imagine, like, yeah, it's like, this could be my chance to get back in good with the higher ups or something.
Man, we've got to try to get like a GoFundMe page for David Fincher. Like, dude, can we just get you to do a commentary? Like, just do the commentary so we can hear what you have to say about it. Like
that really hurts, actually, because everyone else, even Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who could not speak English,
did a commentary
until several years after the film came to Blu-ray. Like, when the film was made, he had interpreters on the set. He had to learn English to do a commentary.
Well, I think I'm gonna speculate that David Fincher would have done something more with Charles Dance.
I think you're right. I absolutely think you're right.
Just saying.
But yeah, the grand reveal of the alien in her chest, it's kind of funny how dense she is, actually.
How did she not piece this together?
Yeah, because even when she's in the scanner, she's actually directing him to manipulate the machine, but she's telling him to look for fractures. So she thinks she has a broken rib or something.
She might be in denial, but since she's not communicated what's there, she can't really tell anybody, like, no, it's not that. I know it's not that. So everything's happening internally. So she might have just been in denial the whole time. But we don't really get that from her character because of her body language. She's just really like, I'm really coming down with something here. I think I broke a rib.
See, I think that's actually like the biggest weakness of this movie in a lot of ways. Is, I mean, there's a lot of disparate elements, a lot of plot cul-de-sacs that feel like they go nowhere. A lot of characters that get tossed out the window like way too early. It's just the overall tone is very dreary in that unpleasant but not entertaining way. Because, like, Seven's a dreary film.
I was about to say, he can absolutely do a very dreary film. I would say the complete opposite of Zodiac. Zodiac is I'm going to say, I think it's a fun movie, but it's about a serial killer.
Zodiac, to me, is like a representation of why this whole serial killer like phenomenon. We're in the middle of a thing now where people are obsessed with serial
We're working
killers.
through some shit right now.
I don't know what I actually could do an entire podcast just ruminating on why this is what it is now. But to me, the editing and the scripting of Zodiac, it perfectly encapsulates why those stories grab people. It's because the way that movie is presented to you are Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
You're just like, I need to keep digging because I keep finding things. It's like conspiracy theory. It's like a conspiracy theory, but
there's answers.
But it's not called a conspiracy theory, so it's socially acceptable to be interested. But the editing and the scripting of that movie is masterful in such a way that it feels like you're solving a puzzle, and it's very addictive. Like you get really into it.
But he can take Seven, which is just dread. I would say it's heavy and it's dark, and it stays that way the whole movie. And there's no fun parts in that movie. Zodiac, I mean, I was actually just thinking, a girl I work with, she was talking about how she had a fishbowl for the first time, and I'm thinking back to Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr., and he's like, "What are you drinking?" He's like, "It's called a tropical breeze or something like that. It's delicious." And Robert Downey Jr.'s like, chain smoking, drinking straight whiskey. He takes a sip and he just looks at him, and then the next shot is there's like 5 or 6 of these empty glasses. That's a funny shot. Like, it's just a nice little funny thing.
Characters.
Yeah.
Seven has very good characters.
Yeah.
Like, most of them come and go, but the two that we're stuck with for the most part are very interesting and likable for the most part.
Well, I think all of everything that I've mentioned, and like, there's all kind. I'm not a huge fan of the game. It's kind of a one and done.
That's for me. I've seen it once, and that's about it.
But Panic Room, all the characters are great. What's her Twilight? She's in that, for crying out loud.
Kristen Stewart,
Jodie Foster's great. Jared Leto is great. Dwight Yoakam is fucking awesome in that movie.
He had a moment in the 90s, man. That was part of it.
He was so good in that movie. Yeah. But yeah, all of his movies have like really good character development. And
Gone Girl.
I haven't seen Gone Girl. I've heard. Wait, is that Ben Affleck?
Yeah, Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck. I have seen that. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Rosamund Pike, kind of like solidified her as an actual actress, because up until then I feel she was in Doom.
Oh my goodness, she was in Doom.
She was in Doom. But she also does things like Gone Girl, and gets, I think, nominated for Golden Globes and shit. Like, And Tyler Perry's good in that. He's great in that.
Oh, it's a good movie. Gone Girl's solid.
I like the lady who plays Ben Affleck's sister.
Yeah, she's great.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
like, I'm gonna take a Benadryl. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, I liked her a lot.
Did we see his dick in that movie? I thought
Maybe some root. maybe the root, but I don't recall. I know Neil Patrick Harris gets a spectacular death.
It's fantastic.
He gets got.
He's good. He's good. I like Neil Patrick Harris as a comedic actor, but he's good in that. I liked him.
I mean, that's an example of explicit violence that it's like we're not gonna go away. We're not gonna cut away. No. We're gonna hang out in the room with that.
Think about even like sorry, we're on a tangent here, but Zodiac back when he kills the folks on the lake, like it's supposed to be heavy at the same time. It's just it happens so quickly.
I think the most effective aspect of that scene is the reality of it. Mm-hmm. Because the guy just casually just saunters up in broad fucking daylight, and he treats it like a chore.
There's no thematic build up. He just literally just starts stabbing.
Yeah, and he's so apathetic about it.
Yeah.
Where it's not like a crime of passion. It's just like, shut up.
Yeah, it's a strange scene.
Yeah, it's very strange, and even the way it's framed, the camera's just kind of there.
Yeah,
and you're just watching it happen, and it makes it unnerving.
That might be my favorite David Fincher movie, honestly. Like I love Seven.
I think it is.
I think Zodiac's fantastic. But there's a reason why I brought up Zodiac though, is because you were mentioning like the tone of this movie.
Yeah.
It starts off with that kind of like a Seven tone. Like this is going to be a dark ride. Maybe that's the problem. Is like you want to do a darker movie. This like the last movie did gangbusters. Like it did awesome because it was a lot of fun because it's a kind of an action movie. I think David Fincher's like, not my Alien. This is going to be a dark ride. They're like, no, not happening.
Well, his Alien came first, but I think the problem has to do with Ripley's place in the story mostly, where it's she isn't an action hero in the movie. Mm-hmm. Again, this is a movie of two halves. Basically, as soon as the warden's out of the picture, I feel like the movie just nosedives pretty fucking hard. Basically, when we're trying to fight the alien, it becomes far less interesting, and she's just tired and beat up and unhappy throughout the entire second half of the movie. Whereas in the second one, and even the first one to some degree, she has like that fight in her.
Well, she has, like you said, like she has nothing in this movie to go off of. She has no tools. She has no flamethrower. She doesn't have the giant bot to fight. Yeah, she doesn't have anything.
Well, she even attempts to commit suicide in this movie.
Charles Dance. Charles Dance died.
She asks Charles to kill her.
Yeah,
and he says no.
That scene just.
But see, that makes it I don't know how you would fix it. I'm not about to say that I have the answers, but. Like, when you ask your audience to follow a character down that path where it's like, she has no fight in her, she's just kind of going through the motions, like, it feels like a later years Bruce Willis movie.
Yeah, right.
Where it's just like, so she doesn't really care if she wins this fight. She's just tired. Like, maybe it would be better if she just ended it here.
At a certain point, she does know that she has a she has one in her, so... How does that affect your character? Like being like,
and that's another problem is it doesn't really change her. It doesn't change her.
No.
Like it doesn't change the fact that like it doesn't intensify the fire in her. Like actually, that would have been kind of interesting. Or like if you spun it in such a way where she is apathetic and then she learns she has the alien, it's like
now she gets it
now
going.
I can't let it win.
Yeah,
like
that would have been good.
Like I can't. Like I don't care about the rest of these people or what happens on this planet or whatever, but the company can't get the alien, and I can't let the alien beat me.
Maybe that's just David Fincher's tone, too. If you think about Seven, it's just kind of like things... the reaction to Seven was like, this isn't... Like, nothing happened. There was nothing was learned from this, and it was just like, things happened.
Well, Zodiac, the entire movie is that.
Like,
it's just like, this is...
No closure.
God, I hate this word, postmodern.
Yeah.
It's postmodern storytelling. I folks out there listening, I pretty much have omitted the phrase postmodern from my vocabulary because I don't feel that I have that firm an understanding of what it actually means. To the point that I don't like to use it.
He does know how to end a movie, though. I think Seven was an amazing ending, but like same with Zodiac's a good ending. Gone Girl's a really good ending.
Gone Girl's a solid ending.
It's a hard thing to do, though, is to end the movie. So yeah, the climax, quote unquote.
Yeah, we already kind of touched on it. This is where we're trying. The plan here is Ripley has an alien in her. She knows it at this point, and we're trying to corral the alien into like a pit where there's a gigantic industrial piston. It's like a couple of stories tall. Looks like they actually built this sucker. It's kind of cool. And basically we're trying to lure it into this pit, close it in with the piston, and then drop a bucket of lead on top of it. Hot lead. And the way we're doing this is basically we have a man like manning the switch for the piston, which moves very slow. And we just have a bunch of guys like egging the alien on and allowing it to chase them.
They all die.
That sums up like 15 minutes of screen time.
And it's really, we were talking about, it's confusing. Like, they're just running down corridors. Like, it's this way, it kills them. Oh, it's coming this way. Oh no, I got it this way. And it literally just
it's
runs.
Just a bunch of bald British men
dying.
Yeah, dying every couple minutes.
So meanwhile, 85 is gone to meet the Wayland. The Wayland crew are there, and then annoying guy, I call him the defeatist. The defeatist is there. Charles S. Dutton has lured the xenomorph in there. His death is great.
I mean, we can skip over everything else, but just a little bit of detail there. Basically, we're in a situation where he's backed himself into a corner. The piston is coming in. The alien sees him, and he's got Ripley behind him, by the way. And Charles S. Dutton sees the writing on the wall.
He's got Valhalla in his eyesight.
Yeah. He knows it's coming. Basically, he says, Ripley, you climb up the thing. I'm gonna keep it busy down here because somebody still has to pour the lead. So we need it to stay in this hole, and obviously it moves pretty fucking fast.
Yeah.
Some of the monster cam footage during the chase sequences is
yeah.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
But from
either.
a technical standpoint, I think it was probably interesting to do on the set.
It works, but I think for me the problem is like I was under the impression that these things sense. They don't have eyesight. They sense.
See, I've always assumed that, but we've gotten a lot of contradictions to that because
they don't have eyeballs.
I mean, that's always been the case. I mean, the newborn in Resurrection.
As I say, until we get to 4.
But this one is, I think, the first one where we get a perspective shot of
Correct.
it, and it just sees in fisheye lens, basically.
Yeah, that was popular in the 90s too.
It's a steady cam with a fisheye lens, basically.
That was going to be real popular.
And then later on, we revisit that in Alien Covenant, and it just has shitty vision.
Yeah.
It's just smudgy. It's not
video game vision. It's video game vision.
It is. And funny enough, in the video games, the aliens in the Aliens vs Predator games on the PC, the aliens do have a different vision. They have standard vision, but then they also have like sense vision, where victims like prey is highlighted. But they do see, apparently. I don't know how. It's never ever explained or gone into detail. Maybe in the comics I haven't read rather.
Yeah.
Maybe someday. But yeah, monster vision stuff is kind of cool. But yeah, this thing makes a beeline for Charles S. Dutton, and I love that shot when he takes off his glasses.
Yeah.
Because he's got his knuckles ready.
Yeah, ready to go. If there's anybody that's gonna you're gonna get this work, dude. You're gonna work for this.
Dude, he is screaming until the lead is on him.
Yeah.
Like he does not die via alien. He dies via lead.
You need to give him more stuff to do, honestly.
I mean, I would have believed it if he crawled out of the lead.
Yeah, a bucket's fucking neck.
Ripley's just like, you're alive.
His mouth is like he's got like acid is burned off his lips because he's bitten through the xenomorph. No. He looks like Fire Marshal Bill.
He just be quoting scripture or some shit.
Sister, do it.
Yeah.
So yes, they end up doing it, and of course it doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, they do plant the seeds for this, like in terms of like visual storytelling. I did catch a shot during the fire scene when they're putting out the fire. There's a shot of a bucket steaming and cracking. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
oh, gotcha.
It's like, that's what happens when something really hot gets really cold real fast. Put a pin in that. But I don't. again, this feels like we got to give her something to do.
Yeah.
She can't just kill the thing. She's got to push the button.
Again, it's hard because there's no weapons. What we were talking about, like, they do such a good job of writing a strong female character in those first movies is because she has weapons. They have something for her to do. Here, there's nothing for her to really do, or anybody to do, because there's no way to get it.
Another. I don't know if this is a missed opportunity, but my brain cannot detach from this subject. Like I'm obsessing over this to the point that's like maybe I should start fucking writing. But like Ripley versus Alien in like melee combat, and she has an edge in the way,
like Hulk and Thor.
Like, just to try to follow. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like, you're talking about like Hulk and Thor just like going at each other.
Yeah, and so pretend the lead thing didn't happen, or maybe it did, but like maybe its bottom half is like burnt and it's crippled.
Okay.
And she's like, it's not dead, and like she pulls a pipe and she's like, I'm gonna kill this fucking bitch. Like you, and she has a really great line partway into this movie, like around this part where she says like, "You've been in my life so long, I can't remember anything else." That's a good. It's
a really good line.
That's a good line, good delivery too, but.
Because you understand that too.
But you get a little bit of that Ahab in there.
Yeah.
Where it's like this. It's like it's injured or something, and it's like it's ripe for the picking. She's like, "Motherfucker, you're gonna die."
Yeah.
And like, not only are you gonna die, you need to die in front of me, so I know that you're dead. And she's like, maybe the defeatist guy's just like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, stay away from it."
Yeah.
And imagine her fighting this thing like face to face, and you can like. all the neckbeards out there are like, how does Rey use a lightsaber? She's from a desert planet. Why would she know how to use a lightsaber? It's like, okay, like we'll silence you by having the alien be seriously injured.
If you can vote, Star Wars is not for you.
Yeah.
If you're complaining about the new Star Wars and you can vote, stop it. It's not for you.
That's actually a good way of looking at it. It is for younger people at this point, but yeah, the alien's intensely crippled, and not only that. It's conflicted because it knows she has a queen in her.
Interesting.
So it's like it doesn't want to fight her, but it still has survival instincts. It's an animal.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I just think it would be really intense. And then imagine the Wayland guys walking in on that,
like she's the only one that can hunt it. Like she's the only one that can go try to kill it. Like it's actually trying to elude her.
She's the only one that can get close to it without it like squirreling away or like ducking into a vent or like ambushing them. She can actually get face to face with it because it probably would want to protect her to some extent because it
has to
because that's the queen. That's the future of its species.
That's its drive. I mean, if we've learned anything about this virus or xenomorph, its main thing is just get more.
Yeah, I mean the queen flipped the fuck out when it's a facehuggers when all the eggs got burnt in the second one.
That's brilliant. I'm glad you chipped away at that.
And then
that's really good.
Yeah, imagine a scene where instead of the lead works, like.
Can we email Ridley Scott? Third movie.
I mean, imagine the lead works aren't there, and imagine like the Wayland guys walking in on Ripley, like fighting an alien that is on the ground. And by the way, it has acid for blood. Maybe that's how she offs herself.
Interesting.
Like she kills the alien, and then the acid
wipes it on her neck or something.
Yeah, like maybe she sees them coming, and she's like, "I'm doing the thing that I've been spending 100 years doing, just killing this monster." And then I see these guys, and I know what they want inside me. So it's like, there's no good end for me. So yeah, like just the acid or something. Like she and the alien die together or something.
I do want to say this last scene with so Charles S. Dutton. He holds the alien down there long enough for them to dump the lead.
He survives in the director's cut. He crawled out of the lead. No. He crawled out of the lead and he hijacked the spaceship. He went back home to Earth. Became a preacher.
He has a flock. The xenomorph jumps out. It starts giving chase, and then immediately the guy's like, "Pour the water on it."
Hit the sprinklers.
Hit the sprinklers, and it explodes.
Yeah.
It's all over with. But now. The Wayland people are coming up, and I was getting a kick out of this. This was kind of funny.
Yeah.
So Bishop shows up, but it's not Bishop.
Ooh.
It's the guy who designed Bishop, and it's Lance Hendrickson, who's doing a good job with it, like with this character. It's interesting because he's like, they want to save her. Obviously, he's like, "Don't worry, we're gonna take it out of you. We want to help you. We want you to survive.
Yeah.
We're gonna take it out and destroy it." Don't you worry. And like, meanwhile, he's having this conversation, and you can just feel everybody like creeping towards her to like put a knapsack over her, like grab her.
That would have been so funny. Like with all their high tech gear, just like literal potatoes.
They've got a fucking
with the Wayland Yutani Idaho branch.
They so yeah, he's just giving her the spiel, and
I love his eye contact.
Exactly.
Like, he does not blink.
He's doing a really good job here. And 85 is like, he's realizing what's happening. They told him like, they're not taking you home. They do not give a fuck about you. All they want is me.
Yeah.
And he kind of pieces it together. He's like, oh shit, like this is gonna happen. So he has his moment of redemption, and he whacks Lance Henderson over the head. Did you catch his ear?
It's a considerable distance from his skull.
Okay, so this is, I wanted to talk about this because is he an android? Is he another android?
I think it's all but confirmed that he is.
Okay.
In the credits, his name is listed as Bishop 2.
Okay.
And his reaction to having his ear stricken from his head is he kind of nonchalant.
Well, I was thinking, I'm like,
but he has red blood.
That's what I'm saying. He has red blood, and it looks realistic enough. Like if this happened to somebody, like I could see this actually happening. Like your skin is hanging off.
He doesn't really.
Your skin is hanging off your bones, or it's just off there. But it would be gushing blood at this point. So I was a little confused, but I'm like, either way, I'm captivated. Like, what's wrong with him? Is he a droid? Is he a real person?
Well, I mean that's not to completely stop you in your tracks, but I mean there's been a lot of like rumor talk about the Blade Runner and Alien franchises being the same world. Actually, that's entirely feasible. Yeah. Like I could totally see that working just fine without damaging either franchise, to be honest. Because synthetic humans are an integral part of the Alien franchise.
Yeah,
like they're a huge part. It's only intensified in recent years with Prometheus and Covenant. Mm-hmm. And even Resurrection makes mention of like a situation where androids were making other androids. So there's a lot going on there. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the Lance Henriksen we got here is another android.
Oh yeah, and they shoot the fuck out of 85.
Oh yeah, he dies a tasty death.
Yeah, it's pretty
Squib
great.
City.
Yeah.
And then he falls a considerable distance.
And they shoot at Ripley, if I'm not mistaken.
No, she is on like a some sort of construction platform with the defeatist, and they just shoot one round at his leg.
Yeah.
Funny thing. They're all carrying pulse rifles, but that we only get like a couple of rounds discharged in this movie, but it's not the same sound effect as Aliens, and it bothers me.
Did it bother you?
It bothers me. I don't like it. But yeah, defeatist takes one in the leg, and ooh, that's a tasty squib too.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
That's pretty good.
They get an exit wound in there. Like, they get both ends of that knee. It's pretty cool. But then, massive difference here between the theatrical and the special edition. Ripley takes a nosedive.
Yeah.
Ripley jumps into the hot molten metal or whatever. Terminator 2.
Terminator 2.
Well, yeah, she willingly sacrifices herself.
A lot about this that feels like Terminator 2. The chains, the fire, the whole deal. It came out a year before.
Imagine that.
Interesting.
I mean, could have been a studio mandate or something.
It might.
Or like Fox was like...
Maybe James Cameron ghosted in there. Maybe he's the one that came back and fixed it.
Hey.
Need more chains next to that fire.
He's just like walking through the editing bay with just like a comic book, just like, oh, you got a new Alien, huh?
Just keeps walking by.
He's just like, I made an Alien movie once. It's pretty good.
You know what I would have done with that, David? Is I would have done something a little bit different. I would have actually done something.
He's like, get the fuck out of here, James! God!
Throw a fucking tomato at him. Get rid of him.
He's like, it's okay.
Get rid of him.
He's like, I know what I'm not wanted. I'm just gonna go hang out with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You know him?
Maybe you've heard of him.
Maybe you've heard of him. We made a couple movies together.
We're about to make another one. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
It's misogynist as all hell, but it's gonna be great.
You have always liked blue people. Anyway.
But yeah, major difference between the two versions. Your version, she falls.
She jumps.
Yeah, she jumps.
Yeah.
She falls.
Yeah.
My version, she falls and the alien comes out of her chest and she grabs it in midair.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen that one.
I mean, it's the version most people have seen.
Yeah.
Alien 3 does not strike me as a movie that many people revisit.
No.
I've seen it like 3 times, which is probably more than most people on the
I've
planet.
seen it maybe 4 times.
Theatrical version, they make it more dramatic. The alien actually does burst from her chest in mid-fall. She captures it with her hands and clasps it to her chest, and then they fall. Gigantic music cue. It's very operatic.
Yeah, very operatic.
Which do you prefer, though?
I think I like the special edition. Without the chest burster coming out, I kind of like her. Just she knows that whether it comes out or not, that they're gonna do it for evil, and like the reality's there if it's popping out of her chest, and she can do it. But I think there's more to contemplate. It's a little heavier if it's not in her yet, and she just goes ahead and does it.
See, I can't remember the special edition well enough, so I don't know. Maybe they did this, but the theatrical version, it's very hurried. The edit, when she closes the gate in front of Bishop, she goes out on the platform and she falls. It all just goes like bam, 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 just done. I think the theatrical version works just fine. I don't think it's cheesy or anything, but with the special edition without the chest burster, if you stretched it a bit, like if you gave her an acting moment where you just see her like either like give a look of relief or like resignation, just some sort of emotional reaction to what's about to happen. I don't even think we get a close-up before she falls in the theatrical version.
Have you ever seen that meme? It's really funny where it's a blonde lady. She kind of looks a little like Kate Blanchett, and it's always like she's doing like math in her head, and it's all like,
oh, Winona Ryder.
Is it Winona? No, it's not Winona Ryder, but I'll pull up the meme, but it's just like someone tells you something and you're doing the math like, well, that just doesn't add up. So when you're like the end of this movie, she jumps into the fire, and then you see Alien Resurrection. You see a 4th one, you're like, how do you unfire a human? How does she come back for that 4th one? Huh.
Very interesting.
That's what got me to watch the 4th one. I'm like,
how they gonna do that? So they're gonna Jurassic Park it. That's how.
Interesting.
It's like,
anyway.
Well, I mean, I know in Resurrection they did want to have a scene where a mosquito bites her.
Interesting.
And then bursts into flames.
I cannot stand Ron Perlman in that movie. He's so annoying.
But he does the perfect monkey impression.
He's so annoying.
He is a monkey man. Even his name, Johnner. What the hell kind of name is it? Johnner?
French director.
Yeah. French director, Joss Whedon wrote it.
Oh, I forgot about Joss Whedon.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
But
yeah. That's a whole other episode.
But yeah, I mean, I think if you had a nice, good close-up of her just doing some acting shit and then falling, that's all you need. I don't think it's badly executed in either version, but definitely need to have that.
Yeah.
Or you could George Lucas the shit out of it and have her looking out by Bishop, and then there's a Force ghost of Hicks. Actually, they did the stupidest fucking shit ever in this game called Aliens Colonial Marines. My brother sat me down and forced me to play part of this game because it's so bad. He bought it at like a bargain bin for like $5 or something. Mm-hmm. They retcon, like Fox approved the storyline of this game, and they actually like inserted plot elements into the game explaining how the Sulaco ejected everyone, mm-hmm. like how we got to Alien 3. And then they retconned it even further and had it where Hicks survives. And he is present when Ripley jumps into the fire.
Oh my gosh.
And he says, no! It's so bad.
Wow.
And they also got Michael Biehn to do the voice, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, he probably doesn't do much.
He's probably got house payments or something.
Everybody's got bills, dude. Everybody gotta eat.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they close down the facility and they take the defeatist away, never to be seen again.
It's fun. I liked his exit scene. Was kind of funny.
Yeah. I like how he's like, I got out.
Say something, fuck you. Like, just him leaving, like, you little shit.
Yeah. Up until the end.
You little scamp. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the closing shot of the movie, at least in the theatrical version, is the EEV. The camera just kind of like cranes in there, and we hear a recording from, I believe, Aliens, or maybe the end of Alien, where Ripley's doing her flight recorder spiel about the disaster that happened on the Nostromo.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm signing off. Credits!
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely not very good. There's definitely lots of things that were worth revisiting, like just the set. Visually, it's great. First half of the movie's good. Second half's not good. I think if David Fincher, if they had just not fucked with him and not worried about maybe the box office, like, listen, this movie's got to make money. Like, no, just let me work. Just let me work. Fine, I'm gonna make a movie about a serial killer. I'm gonna make 7. I'll show you.
I'll show you. I'll show all of you.
I'll show all of you. And he did.
Like, over and over and over again, because he can't seem to get away from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see there's David Fincher moments in here, and then I think the second half is just not his movie. That's what I think.
Yeah, I feel it's kind of interesting, because it does feel that way. Like, it does feel that, like, once the alien takes center stage, like, either he wasn't involved or he lost interest or something. But, like, the build up to it is actually pretty well done.
As far as, like, watchability, where would you rank this, below or above Covenant? I know you hate Covenant, but
I hate Covenant, but I also own a 4K of it, and I did listen to the commentary for it.
Mm-hmm.
So Covenant is not without value. None of the Alien movies are without value.
That's true.
I think that's actually kind of cool that there's a franchise out there that every movie in it has some sort of redeeming value to it.
Not Predator.
Predator has some garbage in there. It has some movies that's like, I don't know if I want to come back to that. Whereas this one, it's like, I could probably watch any Alien movie again and get something out of it. And I think in terms of rewatchability,
if this had a commentary, it would be no question this one. Like, I would absolutely.
Yeah, actually, I think that would make a world of difference.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the Blu-ray of it does have behind-the-scenes stuff. It does have a making of, I believe, produced without Fincher's involvement, unfortunately, but it's something. Covenant, I feel like Covenant has baggage in the form of Prometheus and Ridley Scott, where it's frustrating because it feels like a Marvel movie but an Alien movie, where it's like there's hanging threads that there's baggage from the previous movie, Prometheus, and then there's baggage in the form of what's to come. Like, obviously, we're trying to set up for a sequel or something, whereas Alien 3 is very self-contained for the most part. And I think I would sooner rewatch Covenant, but at the same time, there's so many things that annoy me about it. Like,
yeah, I know.
There's a lot of annoying bits to it, and it does bother me that it does feel like it's trying to do too much, whereas Alien 3, it's like it's a singular product.
One more question. Do you think Prometheus would have been a better movie had Ridley Scott done it in the 80s? If he had gone back after Alien or even Aliens and done Prometheus?
Maybe, yeah.
I think it'd been
I think it would have been
a little more interesting.
I think he probably would have been more ballsy. Like, would have been more aggressive and more interested in telling the story he wants to tell, or the script is trying to tell, as opposed to making a bankable film.
Yeah,
because that's it. I think that's Prometheus's biggest weakness, is that it's trying.
It's a movie first and foremost.
Yeah, it's
not
movie.
A film. It's a movie.
Yeah, it's a movie. The cast is stacked in such a way that's like, hey, it's something for everyone.
Yeah.
Even though literally no one does anything in the movie.
Like, I mean, Idris Elba
sits in a cockpit
and then bangs Charlize Theron at one point.
He's not happy about it, and I'm very curious why that is.
He's like, all right, fine.
No, he just does not want to talk about it.
All right.
Like, and if I ever got Idris Elba, like, in an interview situation or just like a dinner party or something, he's like, so Idris, like, how come you were that way? Like, after they were like, hey, so how was Charlize? He's like, I don't want to talk about it. like, what prompted you to do that in your acting?
As the character, like, wouldn't you be excited? Like, you knock over your accordion trying to jump up. 10 minutes. All right, it's game time, dude. Whoo.
Push-ups.
All right. Push-ups. Push-ups.
It's like, what are you talking about? Push-ups.
Fluff a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No deep squats, just like shallow.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all I had to say about that.
Yeah, I think we had a very solid conversation there for a movie that, honestly, like, what's on the screen, like what we got as the finished product, I don't think is.
It's underwhelming to say the least.
It's underwhelming, but obviously there's a lot to be said about it,
Yeah.
and it's a fascinating movie. It's not the best, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that about wraps up Alien 3. I guess tune in next week for Alien Resurrection.
Correct, I believe so. I don't know if we're going to get to Prometheus this month. Maybe. Don't know.
We shall see. But that being said, thanks for listening.
Yeah.